because we had like an ID box, but no one did put any ID in it. So what we did is we changed and we made like an innovation lab. So every month, students could come over there, but also other employees. And if they got an ID, they came to the innovation lab team, an internal team, looking at the ID, looking is there's a business case, does it fit in the vision? And if it was a really good ID, then they put it on stage because we have a big theater. And every 3 months, employees could pitch their ID towards like a steering team.
What's the one premier event that brings the global attractions industry together? IAPA Expo 2025, happening in Orlando, Florida, November 17th through the 21st.
From breakthrough technology to world-class networking and immersive education, IAPA Expo 2025 is where you find possible.
And just for our audience, you'll save $10 when you register at iapa.org/IAPA Expo and use promo code EXPO, APROS 10.
Don't miss it. We won't.
Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman. I am obsessed with the guest experience and helping attractions make that their top priority for success.
And I'm Matt Heller. I am passionate about organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and employee engagement.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast.
Hey, Josh, how are you?
Hey, Matt. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Woohoo!
Yes, sir. I got a question for you.
All right.
You have been, I don't know if lucky is the right word. You've been fortunate. You've worked with a lot of different organizations. You've seen a lot of different organizations and how they work. What would you say is the biggest driver of culture in an organization?
Yeast. You know, we've been doing this podcast for so long. I don't even know. I'm now reminding myself of many years ago, you asked me once, what do I think of when I think of culture? And I said yogurt. So it's been many years. So now
It's been many years, but yes. Okay,
back.
yeast. Perfect.
Okay. Biggest driver of culture. Well, there's people, and people probably aligned on some core gravitational pull that they're all aiming towards, but also being interconnected, being on the same page, and having the behaviors modeled that are expected from them from leadership. So I think that's going to bring me to the answer of leadership.
Okay, absolutely. I really liked what you said about people sort of being on the same page, which obviously is a function of leadership. It's a function of people buying into the vision. And I would agree that that is a huge driver of culture in an organization, both positive and negative. We've probably all, or both of us, I should say, have been in not so positive cultures, but also very positive cultures that we've wanted to emulate. And I think that's a great springboard for our conversation today with Coen Bertens, who is the owner of Coen Bertens Consultancy. He's also a former executive with Efteling in the Netherlands. And he's got a lot of things to say about culture in terms of long-term vision and how to make sure that it is the culture that you want in an organization, and how to change the culture from where it was to where you want it to be.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about shifting culture. He also talks about starting with people, which I feel like, I don't know if it's been said verbatim in recent podcast interviews, but it definitely echoes the sentiment of many of the other amazing leaders that we've had on the show, as far as whether it has to do with their culture or their leadership style or even just their day-to-day job. It is about the people. And, you and I both recognize that and hopefully exemplify that to the best of our abilities, where you very much focus on employee experience. I focus heavily on guest experience. We know that there's a very large Venn diagram intersection component of it, but it's about the people, because in any industry, even if you're manufacturing widgets, that doesn't exist without the people. And we are in the people business. We are in hospitality. We are in the experience economy. And without the people, it wouldn't stand on itself otherwise.
Absolutely. You go to any facility, whether it's a family entertainment center, a theme park, it's a grocery store, and if there's no people, it's going to be really hard for that experience to take place. Although, as we've talked about in grocery stores, the self-checkout is a different story. But that's, there would still be nothing on the shelves until they get the robots putting things on the shelves. But the other thing that Coen talks about is creating one fan a day, and how that can multiply in terms of the guest experience and even in terms of how people feel about your organization. And this was some advice that he got from a professor. And he said, you think about how many team members you have working on a day, and then if they make one fan for the day, and then again, how that multiplies out through all the different people that are coming to the park that day. And it's not just for frontline team members, it's also for leaders. And, we didn't really get into this, but I think one of the reflections I have about the way he talked about it was, as a leader, you could be making a fan with a team member, right? Doing something to create a fan of your team members who want to come back the next day. So creating a fan for it, or one fan a day, I think is a great philosophy.
Yeah, and it's one that I've taken a similar approach to in a lot of the work that I do with my clients. I've brought up to say, what if every team member created one wow moment for one guest or group of guests per day? If that was kind of a baseline expectation to say you can do it right when you clock in, or kind of figure out, or coming back from break, as far as like how it works in to the overarching service culture, the numbers add up really fast. So just think of how many shifts are there per day, how many employees do you have working per day, and then if that's your number of wow moments, then multiply that by your operating calendar. Obviously, that number is going to vary based on based on where in the industry you're at, or and your attendance and your staffing levels. But it becomes so wildly large that, think of, even if a fraction of those posted a Google review, think of just the lift that you would get from just from the social media and the word of mouth aspect of it, that then turns back into dollars in revenue for you. And we touch on that briefly, of saying, okay, we're measuring the culture through these specific metrics, but also very much anecdotally as well, of just, we know we sense it, we know we feel it. So it's cool to kind of see it on both ends of that as well.
Absolutely. So is it time to take a trip over to the Netherlands and get into this conversation with Coen?
Yeah, I was going to say grab your yogurt so you have your cultures, but that was better.
Hello, Coen. Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Matt. It's a great honor to be on this podcast.
Well, it's a great honor to have you. I'm wondering if we can kind of start somewhat at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your career?
Of course. Coen Bertens, 53 years old. And I started at a bank, but after a year I worked at Efteling. So Efteling is a theme park in the Netherlands. I don't know if people know it in the US, but it's number 3 in Europe and number 23 in the world. And I started in the finance department, get an MBA in finance. But then after 10 years, I switched to the operations, become a park manager. But then I noticed that I also got like 1,000 employees to be responsible for. So made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot. And then I get to be promoted to deputy director, CEO, and director of the park. And in 2019, we got the award of the most guest-friendly company in the Netherlands. So I got a lot of requests to help other organizations. So I quit my job and I became a consultant in leisure and in hospitality. So I'm helping other companies, especially leisure companies, on the Broadway, but on hospitality, but also leisure, retail, rides, food and beverage, and I love to do that. So it's my hobby and my work, if I'm honest.
So I know we're definitely going to dive into your consultancy and the nuances and everything that you help your clients with. But I'm curious from the very beginning, the switch from banking into Efteling. I know you were working in finance, so it was all very much within your wheelhouse. But I'm curious as far as you left the banking industry into the theme park industry.
Yeah, the great thing about it is I love to be storytelling, but my mother, she found out I was working at a bank and I really got a good job, but I loved to go to theme parks, not only to Efteling, but all theme parks in Europe. And then my mother, she found a job application for Efteling for a finance job. So I went over there and and then I got the job. And so that's why I started from the bank to Efteling, but it was from finance to finance. So it was easy to do. And then the great thing about it, I worked in the finance part, but also I was one of the duty managers. So in the weekend, I had it was in the planning. So sometimes I worked as a duty manager in the weekends. Even I was a controller. So I loved the job even more. And that's why I switched after 10 years to be in the operations.
So I just found out something else that you and I have in common is that my mom is the one who told me to go apply at my very first theme park job. So very cool, very cool. Well, I'm curious if we can go back to when you talked about Efteling being the most friendly, guest-friendly company, and really how that came about.
Yeah, if you look, I was promoted 2014 as a director, the CEO of Efteling. And one of my colleagues, I was a coach of and also inspiration manager of Efteling France. He came to me in the office and he said to me, "What's your goal, Koen? What's your goal? Now you've been promoted to a director." But I didn't have the goal, of course. So we went to the office, had a discussion, and I wanted to be like in the top 10 of the most guest-friendly companies in the Netherlands. And at that time, we weren't in the top 100 even. So, but we were so proud of our colleagues, but they didn't really express it like the ones in Orlando, for example. So we said, let's do the goal. I want to do the top 10, but after a good discussion with Frans, he said, no, we have to go to a really tough goal. So we said, let's do let's go for the first one. Let's go for number one. And that's how we started. But we also knew that if you want to be the most guest-friendly company in the Netherlands, it's about changing the culture. So we knew that it took us 5 years. And we knew that we needed like external advice. So I called Lee Cockerell. I know he was also in the podcast. And I called him and I said to him, could you come over for 3 days? But my program was so tight. He said, yeah, I just retired, Koen. I will come over, but I will come over for a week. And that was really great. So I get a week. So I learned also a lot about leadership. And I'm really thankful for Lee for helping me that week. And also he created that program for us also. That was a great start.
So what were some of the things, would love to go deeper into this, that Lee brought over and that you were able to implement with your team and really be able to start to see that culture shift and evolve?
Yeah, because first we thought, let's start with guest friendly. Let's start towards the guest. But Lee said, how you treat your people is how you treat your guests. So also what he wrote in his book, of course. And he said, you have to start with your people. Start with your people and create them and change them into ambassadors. So we start with the people, and also we want to change ownership from the leadership team to the employees. So we start with like a personal compass, and it's one digital place where people can fill in their feedback. So they have to ask feedback towards the colleagues and the leaders. And with that feedback, they can check what are their talents. And they use the talents towards the contribution of the organization and also to their personal development. So that was a big start. So we didn't start even with hospitality. We started with our employees, getting them proud and also using their talents, because we were too much talent focused or too much task focused instead of talent focused. So that was the great start, and also the advice of Lee.
And so then as you follow that up, you said it took about 5 years to kind of change the culture. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people, when they say we want to shift our culture, they think, well, we can do 1 or 2 things and then the culture is going to shift. But to your point, it takes a long time. And I know you and I have also talked a lot about vision and being able to, get that out into the workplace. So can you talk to us a little bit more about how you sustain that to change the culture?
Yeah, first we of course what we did, we want to create insight. So Frans said, let's check how many people, how many employees know our vision at Efteling. So we did a survey, and unfortunately, only 2%, I would say, the directors and the management, they knew the vision. So 98% of the people were working in Efteling without any goals or without any vision. So we had a big issue. It was too complex. People knew a little bit, but they didn't know like the wheel sparkle. So that's why we created like a 9+ organization, a simple vision, and also that people can easily make a connection with. So if you say you want to have like a 9+, you can compare it with like a 5 stars. If you want to have a 5-star service, everyone understands, okay, 5 stars, that will be something really outstanding. So, and also what we did is we asked our ambassadors. So we looked for like 50 ambassadors in the organization, and we asked them, would you help us with spreading the vision towards the workflow? So we had our leaders and our ambassadors. So on 2 levels, we were working on that transforming that vision to the MPs. And also with the personal compass, it was also, the vision was connected in that personal compass. So that's so important, because a lot of companies, they put their vision only on the wall, and then they hope that the people walking towards the wall and understand it. But you really have to feel it. So it's also about the leadership team. They have to repeat the vision every time, and also ask, what is your contribution towards the vision of Efteling?
So how do you take all of that and then measure the success of this implementation? When you said it took 5 years, what was happening within those 5 years that you were able to really identify milestones that it was growing?
Yeah, what you do is, of course, is you have like the NPS for guests, but also you have like the ENPS. I don't know if you know it in the US, but it's like the employee net promoter score. So we did surveys about the employees. Are they proud of it? So, and we repeated it. So it was very important that our leadership, also we have to change our leadership team. We want to move more responsibilities towards the working floor. Because we knew if we want to have better hospitality, we have to, of course, for example, deal with the complaints on the working floor itself instead of the management. I think at that time, our management team, because it's like Efteling, it's really great to work in a theme park, but you're so enthusiastic to work over there that the management was running and doing all the tasks. But then we noticed that there are a lot of MPs who also can do the task. So we have to change that. So we changed the culture by also moving responsibilities to the working floor. And for example, they can deal with complaints, and also they could do a lot of tasks what managers did in the past.
And I would imagine that ability or the responsibility to take care of some of those tasks not only increase their confidence, but also their buy-in to the vision.
Yes, and for example, what we also did is we had like 1,500 students. So Efteling has over 3,000 employees. Half of them were students. And what we noticed that they had a lot of good ideas, but the ideas weren't on the working floor. So what we did is we changed that, like, because we had like an ID box, but no one did put any idea in it. So what we did is we changed and we made like an innovation lab. So every month, students could come over there, but also other employees. And if they got an idea, they came to the innovation lab team, an internal team, looking at the idea, looking, is there a business case, does it fit in the vision? And if it was a really good idea, then they put it on stage, because we have a big theater, and every 3 months, employees could pitch their idea towards like a steering team, because we centralized the innovation budget to one steering team. And that was a really good idea, because that's why the ideas came over. And I will give you one example. We have a dark ride at Efteling. It's Dream Flight. It's the most beautiful ride at Efteling. And it was built in the 90s. But the problem was, people with a disability can enter it. In the 90s, we didn't pay a lot of attention at that time to it. But nowadays, we wanted to change it, but we couldn't, because it's an old ride system. So one of the MPs over there was a student, Freek. He was always saying to the people with a disability, you can enter the ride. So they had to wait for 40 minutes. And then, of course, the family came out of the ride, and then he was very enthusiastic, and he didn't experience it. So it was always a big disappointment. Then he said, because he was a student and also working in IT, because he He did a study in it. He came over and had the idea, let's use VR glasses and we make a special room. And if we use the VR glasses, we use headsets and the family can enter the ride. And at the same time, we start a VR movie. So the people with disability can see the same scenery, and also with the microphones, they can talk to each other. So they see the same scenery and talk with each other. And also we use some smell in it. Of course, it was an expensive idea, but it was our biggest complaint, and he fixed it. Not the management, a student. And that's what I love about the ideas. How these are one of the great ideas about changing culture and changing also like from an idea box to an innovation lab. Yeah.
What I think is so cool about this is that maybe the default and the most common response to is we have a problem is we need to hire these expensive consulting firms to
Yes.
come in and do all this work and all this research and present the solutions where which is not a bad thing, which is not not against that. Obviously, all three of us run consulting firms. So thinking as far as of like certain large problems, but also recognizing and looking inward first of saying your most advantageous source of knowledge is right here, is your team, and it's your
Yeah.
staff.
And also, what a great thing, we also even use fans. So sometimes we had issues and we asked to the fans of Efteling, would you help us? So we had like a creative workshop and we asked them help us with the issues. And because some of them, they almost come 150 times a year at Efteling. So they know even Efteling better than we are. So we use the fans sometimes to help us with some issues. And also MPs. So sometimes we put an issue we had like an internal I do say it in a digital platform, internal digital platform at Efteling for the employees, and then we put issues in it, and they could come over in a creative workshop, help us with those issues. And also what we use, we had like a digital marketplace where you could, if we had like a project team, even students could enter that as a member to be on the project team. So it's also changing culture and changing philosophies.
Well, Coen, I'm wondering if we can switch gears just a little bit and talk more about the experience at Efteling, because that's where you and I got to meet.
Yes.
That's where I got to spend some time with you and Martijn and my friends, and had just an amazing experience there. And I'm wondering if you can kind of walk people through a little bit of the experience of Efteling if they've never been there before.
Yeah, Efteling is started in 1952, and it started as a foundation. And it still is owned by the foundation, 100% owned. So there isn't any company who can buy Efteling. So that's really great. And that's why it's so great, because we really have like a long-term vision. So with the long-term vision, it helps us to really invest not only now, but also in the future. So in 1952, it started with three people. So it was Anton Pieck, he was a famous designer at that time, the mayor of Kaatsheuvel. And the reason why the mayor entered this idea, because there was a high unemployment rate. And there was an entrepreneur, Peter Reinders. Those three stuck their heads together and created a fairy tale forest. And the fairy tale forest, they knew it from Germany because there are a lot of Märchenwalds, how they call it. And they used like Andersen and Grimm, the real famous. And they used it because there was like 100 acres, hectare. I don't know how you say it in the US, but it's was a big land, and there they put in those 11 fairy tales, and that's how it started. And it was immediately a success. We had more over 50,000 guests at that time. I think the entrance fee is like 25 cents in dollars, so it's a fair price. And so it became more and more popular. But in the late 70s, then the problem became because there weren't any more visitors at that time. So the number of visitors didn't increase anymore. So they need something new. And they went to the US. And there they saw a roller coaster. But Anton Pieck at that time, he didn't love it because he said it's a steel monster. Because he really is like, he's a designer and he loves like creating some really great fairy tales, and then you have like a monster of a coaster, he said. But fortunately enough for us and also for the guests, it was a huge success. So he said after a year, okay, I'm convinced it was a great success. It's the next step. We have to go from playground to theme park, but let's theme every ride, because this coaster is ugly. it hasn't been themed, and there isn't any story with it. So the Python is still the only ride at Efteling without any theming, and there's only one story, and that's this story. So after that, Anton Pieck created rides with design and stories in it. And then in the late 90s, Efteling started to create accommodation. In 92 with the hotel, 2009 with Bosrijk, nowadays with Loonse and the Grand Hotel. So Efteling became a resort. That's more from 2000. So started from foundation to theme park to resort. What I want to say is, and the thing what's really different instead of other theme parks, so it started as a park, so it's a lot of green. So almost 90% of the park is water and green, and only 12% are rides, buildings, or shops.
So that was what I was going to ask about. I was going to say one of the fun facts that Matt came home with after his trip to Europe is that only 12% of the Efteling property can be developed. And I'm curious if you could actually just tell us maybe about if that presented challenges in developing the park, and also curious as far as at this point in time, what percentage of that are they near capacity, and just kind of just the story around that.
It's really created challenges because, of course, let's first the advantage, because that's the most important. I think it's stated in the foundation, so no one can even build more. I think it's a really good idea to do. I'm convinced of it because nowadays and also in the future, it's always be like a green environment. I think that's a unique selling point of Efteling. But if you increase your numbers, and Efteling did, so we increased numbers from 3 million to, for example, to 4 million in 1 year, from 2008 to 2009. And then from 2004 to 2019, we went from 4.4 to 5.2 million. So that's really great to have more visitors, but you can imagine, you work in the business the same, that the number, the waiting queues will increase, and not only at the rides, but also you have problems with food and beverage, the roads, you get the traffic. You'll get stuck in the traffic. So what we did is we have to change rides. And I think when I came over, I became the CEO. The first ride what I changed was like a wooden coaster, and the wooden coaster was it had to be renewed, and the capacity was like 600-700, for example. And I changed it with the GCI coaster, but a racing GCI coaster, so I get a double one. So the capacity became 1,800. So that's what I also did, is like, if we can renew rides, and also can we also increase that capacity and also expand opening hours. And in 2010 we even opened year round. So it's great to have like 12%, because then you have 88% of nature. But if you increase your number of visitors, you have to fix that. You have to fix your capacity, of course.
And that is one thing that I noticed about Efteling right away before we even met. And you told us about the 12%, how green it is and how beautiful it is and how much it looks like a park where there happens to be some rides versus a ride park where there happens to be some greenery. And I know that you and I have talked a little bit about the differences, maybe even in perception of the US parks versus European parks. And I'm wondering if you can go into a little bit more of that, especially for people who haven't been to the European parks.
Yeah, maybe you can compare it a little bit with Animal Kingdom, because it's also a park full of green. But I think that's the big difference. I think with the US parks, most of them are more like the ride parks, where the parks have, the majority is more rides, and the greenery is, they pay less attention. Not all parks, because if you look at Universal, I would say Disney is really good in it, but also some family-owned parks like the Hershey Park but I think the difference is with Efteling, but it's also within Europe, if I'm honest. Within Europe, Efteling is the park with the most green in the park itself. So, but I think in Europe, it's more, I think the storytelling is more and more becoming more important, because people in Europe really love culture, love heritage. And I think maybe in the US, they also like that, but they also love to have like really thrill rides. And people in Europe, they're more like, they like the dark rides, they like the experiences, but not everyone is love to have like a thrill. So that's why I think, for example, Six Flags is really popular in Europe, and we tried to do it in the Netherlands, but it wasn't a success, because only the teenagers went to the park, And especially the younger children, also the elders, they didn't love it enough. I think that's the difference. But of course, Efteling, you can compare it with the Disney's, the Universal, of course.
Mm-hmm. So, Coen, we've talked a lot about Efteling and a lot of the work that you've done there, and I know that ties very nicely into the consultancy, and would love to learn more about kind of maybe the specific things that you focus on with your clients in terms of running your consulting business.
Yeah, what we love to do is, if I'm honest, with TDC, so we have a small consultancy company with 6 experts. And what we do is first we create insights. So we call it like a snapshot. And that's what we do is we do like a mystery visit. And then for 1 or 2 days, we went over to the park and then we make pictures. We look at the atmosphere. And then, of course, we're looking about what are the challenges and how we can help them, for example. Of course, they in advance they give the challenge they also have, but we really want to feel it. So we want to feel the guests, we want to see how the people treat, and then we go to them and make like a tailor-made program for them. And what we always try to do, because we are only a small consultancy firm, we love to work with the company itself. So it's not that we come over and say we do the whole training program. No, we create we do co-creation. So we create a program with the company itself. And we ask them, which are your ambassadors, so we can train them and they can train the people. I think that's the best way. It's more sustainable, it's cheaper, and I think you get more ownership in your company itself. So that's how we work in operation, for example. But also we help like new entrepreneurs who want to build a theme park or an experience. So, for example, I have one of my clients. He has a bungalow park. So, and then he started a water park, and now he wants to build an indoor theme park. But he didn't have any experience with it, so I helped him with building, with buying the rights, with the building and the construction, and now with operation and training. So sometimes we start with sometimes we have existing clients, but also like clients who wants to have like a new experience, new theme park. And we love always to talk with the owners, and we always make like a tailor-made program, because everyone has like different challenges. So there isn't like a standard program where we say you have to do A, B, C, or D. That's not the situation.
Yeah. And you did tell me that you got to work with your daughter at one point, and I'd love it if you could tell that story.
Yeah, you learn from day to day. So what's happening was I was co-creating, and we get a lot of, I don't know how it is in your business, but especially in the theme park business, we have a lot of young people working, like students, and a lot of people, elder people from, I would say, from 30 till 50 or even 60 years old. Very proud of the company, but not so willing to change. And we have a lot of students willing to change, but they are not so, on the other hand, they have a lack of experience. So they asked me always for a generation training. First, they asked me for the Gen Z training. That was the first. Then I said, no, there are different generations. I don't like to have a Gen Z. There's only focus on Gen Z, and I don't like it. So I was creating a multiple generation training. But my daughter, she's 80 years old, and she's studying journalism. And she came over and she was looking at the table. She says, Dad, what you are doing? I said, yeah, I'm making a generation training, and now I'm starting with the Gen Z. And she said, Dad, you're a boomer. Now, I'm not a baby boomer. I'm Generation X, of course, but that was a great term for her. So she said, you're a boomer. You don't have to do it. You have to do the training together with me. So I said, if you want to create it, you also have to do the training together with me. Not only creating, but also doing it. And she did it, and it was one of the most popular trainings. Because when I tell the client that we do the generation training, not only with the adults, but also with the students, then they immediately say, yes, I want to have it. And it's crazy, because a lot of trainers, like older trainers, they train with like my age, they do the multi-generation training. But I would say, yeah, ask the youngest, and they really want to do it. And I think the talents of the Gen Z are really good, but you have to motivate them, and they want to have a goal, and they ask questions. They always ask the why question, but it's okay. Our generation is more, if the leader says right, we go to the right. But I think it's good that they say, that they ask, why do we have to go to the right?
I was speaking with someone earlier of training kind of the younger generations and even adapting training that resonates really well with them. And I'm wondering if maybe you're able to expand on that and talk about just how training in and of itself has just evolved over the time that you've been in the industry compared to maybe how you recall in, training in the earlier days, compared to what the Gen Z and which just the younger generations are looking for in terms of what motivates them, what resonates with them, and then even just the way that they're able to process the information and then turn it over and apply it.
Yeah, good question. Because in the past, it's not because I only work for myself now like for 4 years, so it's I don't have a big history in that. But in the past at Efteling, it was more like sending the information. So you were sitting in a room and there was someone presenting some information, and after an hour, we all get out of the room, and that was it. And nowadays, what we do, and we learn, if we really want to have that information more in their minds and in their souls, it's like interaction. So what we do is only like 15% or 20% maximum. We offer them information, and 80% will be like exercise, interaction with them, and even like gamification. So for example, we used like the Belbin roles, and we used like the Disney characters of it. So we are you, for example, are you Winnie the Pooh or a Tigger, or that's because everyone can feel how Tigger is or how Winnie the Pooh is or Piglet. So and that really works because then you get the different characters and they know how to work with it. So if you do it more like gamification and interact with the people, that's really working well. Also, what we do is we create like small trainings, like 5 minutes training, 10 trainings, but all so they can do it like on a daily operation. Because if you repeat it every day, then it will be part of your routine. So we love to do it and also love to interact with it. And because most of the information you already can get it with AI, with ChatGPT or with Google Pilot. So there are so many systems. So the best, what I noticed that we have to do interaction. We miss the connection nowadays because the world is going so fast. We need human interaction. Maybe you see this different. I don't know how it is in the US. I think you do the same, but
Yeah, we do a lot of, at least in my practice, we do a lot of interaction. I know that there's a lot of resources out there that are sort of blended, so you can get some information online and then put that into practice, in the real world. So I think it's very similar. But I was just going to say, I appreciate that you talk about interaction because especially in the world that we're in, and Josh really focuses on the guest experience, and I focus on the employee experience, and in both of those, we're interacting with people. Right? We're interacting with another human being. And if we don't have that skill, then it's going to be really difficult for us to serve a guest or to interact with the team member. And that goes back to all those things you were talking about when it comes to bringing a vision to life. We're not going to be able to do that if we can't interact with another human being.
it's also because when the companies ask them, how can we get that vision towards all the employees? We say, make a movie of it. So make a movie, make special emotions of it, because then they have to feel it. So what we also do with the training is my oldest daughter, she's 21 years old. She's now studying for a teacher, and she helps us also because she knows how to interact with the children in our class. And the children are the future. So we're also looking about what future kind of training could we use to them. And also, it's very simple what they do. And normally we make it too complex. So if we make it simple, people can understand it. And we always think that people gonna remember everything on the training. But I think if they get like 20%, we're really happy. So keep it simple, make it playful, and ask the youth to help us. Yeah.
How are we as just the industry, as just those who are training employees, how are we overcomplicating it, and what are ways to kind of strip out those complications to really help make it simple?
It's a good question, Josh. But I think if we want to make it simple, we have to listen to the employees first of all. So of course the board members can say, or the management can say, we want to have, this is the challenge and we want to train them. But go to the employees, ask them what the challenges are, because that's the easiest way. and then translate it to easy terms. So because everyone has to understand it, and focus. So I would say a lot of people have like a to-do list also in the trainings, but make it not to-do list. So put only some items in your training. So let's like 3 or 4 subjects, and don't want to have like 10 subjects. So if you want people remember it, we always maximize the subjects. And even when we have a good discussion, maybe we only come to one subject. Because I was at a training, we do the Schiphol airport, and at Schiphol with COVID, there was a big issue. So there were waiting queues for 2 to 3 hours for the check-in for the security. So you can imagine how hard it was. So people were angry, upset. So we had to train the security. And we did the check-in, and there were a lot of emotions. So the first workshop, I think 2 hours were only about the emotions of those security people. And the last hour, it was like the first step, what we could do. And they were very helpful. They said, because we were thinking, oh, what did we do? We only listened to them. But for them, that was more than enough, because they had to tell their stories. And they say, now we can quit and we can go further. Because they were thinking that we get a smile and wave program. And I said, no, first we're going to check in. And I think it was a really good step. And I think that's also important. Listen to the people in the training, what they need. Ask for example, what are their goals? What are their needs?
So Coen, there's one thing that I wanted to make sure that we have time to go over, and that was something you and I talked about earlier, and that was one of your favorite mistakes, or something that you did that you really learned from that really stuck with you.
Yeah, I think if it's okay, I like to tell my New Year's Eve story, because it was a mistake, but also what I love to be is like, then I'm going to tell the clue. I don't do it. So let's start with New Year's Eve. So at Efteling, there's a special New Year's Eve party, and it's from 7 in the evening till 1 at night. And I always work at New Year's Eve, because that's what I learned from be an example. So I worked in the weekends, and I worked every New Year's Eve, because it was a hard day for the employees to work. And I'd always love to have a great party. So it was like 12:30. Was really beautiful fireworks. The weather was beautiful. People were laughing, going away. And I was thinking, now I will be on time at home. But if you think that, it always goes wrong. And that note. So what's happening is I was going to the entrance, looking at the cameras, and I saw like 200 people at the bus station. And those guests, they were waiting for the buses. And because normally we have a reservation with the private buses, they would pick them up and bring them to the station of Tilburg and Bosch. Those are the big cities near Efteling. But the problem was the company forgot to put a reservation in the system. So we didn't have any buses. So you can imagine 12:30, 200 people standing over there. So I had a problem. Tried to call the company, didn't get it. Then I tried to call for a taxi. But a taxi at New Year's Eve, they were laughing at me and say, you don't get anyone. So I got a problem. So I was thinking, I have to be a good example. So as a director, you have to bring a good example. So I said to my employees, let's get all the lease cars. So I get 10 lease cars, 10 drivers. And I was running to the bus station with my 10 drivers and saying to the people over there, we're going to bring you to the bus station of Tilburg and Bosch. So I get a big applause, sitting in the car, was proud of myself. But after 5 minutes, I was thinking, this is my biggest mistake ever. Because why? Do you know how many people I can take with the 10 cars? It's about 40, 50 people.
Yeah.
So, and I counted it. I calculated it's like 40 minutes drive to go from Kaatsheuvel, where Efteling is situated, to Tilburg and back. So I think the last guest, if I put them in the car, it would be like 4 o'clock. And I don't think I get any applause. So I was thinking, oh my God, what do I do? What did I do? But unfortunately enough, one of the employees called me and he said, Coen, that wasn't the best idea. I said, yeah, I know. I made a really big mistake. Yes, I know, he said. But why didn't you SMS, text every employee who's working at Efteling and ask them, if you are living in the neighborhood of Tilburg and Bosch, bring them towards the station of Tilburg and Bosch. I said, that's a better idea. Yes, I already arranged it with a duty. So you saved me. So my biggest mistake was saved by one of the employees. So I was very lucky. And so in the backside of my car, they were discussing. The guests were discussing with each other and said, I think you're not an employee, but you're a director of Efteling. I said, yes, it's true. But if I'm honest, if you are employee or director, it doesn't matter. Our focus on hospitality is always, is always number one. We will bring you home. I said, home? Where do you live? And they live in a small town near Den Bosch. So I said, I will put you at your front door. So they were really happy. So, oh, we're even on time at home. So they were happy. I drive back and I look at the bus station and it was empty. So 90 people of Efteling get a text message at 1 o'clock at night, and they took strange guests into their cars and brought them home. Not at the station, but they brought them at home. So the next day, 200 guests put on social media, we were brought home by the employees. And it was my biggest mistake, but it was solved by one of the employees of the entrance, not a manager, one of the employees, and by 90 others. So I was very happy to make this biggest mistake ever. And you can imagine if the employees didn't help me. So I think it's a proof of the guest-friendly culture. As a director, you take a decision, you'll be an example, not the best example, but they see that I'm working at New Year's Eve and they say, let's help them. And then we all help each other. So that's always my story. And I think it's so important as a leader to tell stories and also tell your mistakes, because I'm not proud of the story because I started with a bad idea, of course. I didn't ask the employees, do you have a better idea? But they fixed it for me. And that's, I'm really proud of it.
That is a great story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like there were a lot of like twists and turns on there too. And just even just in the spontaneity of the moment and being so late at night to have to come up with a solution of just any idea is at least an idea that at least kind of gets the ball rolling on it. And thankfully, you were able to have the team that supported you and said, "Hey, here are additional ideas as well," and that they were already put in place and implemented. So.
Yeah, and the great thing afterwards, because I get all those 90 people together who brought the guests home, and I said, I'm going to pay for your gas, and you'll get a special present. And they said, you don't have to do it, because we are Efteling. We are part of our DNA. That's what we do. And that was really very emotional for me and of course we gave them presents, but it was great to hear that they said, we do it because we are proud of it. And it's we are the 5 stars. We are the 9+ organization. We do that. And that's, that was really, it was a really great moment. Of course, you can imagine that also I had like 5 minutes, a very thrilling moment in my car, because I couldn't drive back with my guest on the backside of my car. But you always have to take risks sometimes. Huh? That's how it works.
Well, and hearing that story, I feel like Josh's question earlier about how you measure the culture, this is a great way to measure it in real time, in a real example of this is not a piece of data on a piece of paper.
No.
This is your team members taking the reins of this problem and saying, I don't want anything for it because this is just what we do.
And I think also that I can tell, like every day I can tell we want to have like a 4.6 NPS score or rating on TripAdvisor, or we want to have like the NPS like 67 or 70. But it doesn't work. But if you tell your story, if you tell this story or the story about a small child who of course we couldn't enter the ride, but we get an alternative that he could be the operator, for example, and it led to 660,000 positive reviews on social media. It took so that are the stories were really important, and that really helps us getting that vision towards the working floor.
Excellent.
And I think NPS and eNPS are important to measure for the management, but and it's okay to bring the data, but tell the stories. That has to be the most important.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's something that I talk about as well. Yes, we want to increase the scores that ultimately increase the dollars and the revenue and profitability, but not to dismiss just the anecdotal, case studies in.
It's it's also about earning money. If they ask me about how it's hospitality, why it's so important, then I always make it very simple. So if you go to a restaurant and you enter it and they take your jacket, you sit down and you have your best spot, you have a great view, you get your drinks on time, the food is delicious, and if you want to have a second drink, it's already on your table. They know which drink you like. Then you give a big tip, of course. So hospitality and financial results are next to each other. It's a result. The finance results is a result of great hospitality. Mm-hmm. And keep it simple. And telling that story, it's easier than beginning with profits. And
yeah. Well, and I think to your point, telling your story gets their minds going about what else they could do versus just saying do X, Y, and Z, because then all they're thinking is X, Y, and Z. Right now, you're giving them the empowerment to do something else.
Yeah, that's also what I really love. Also, at Efteling, we try to get like external expertise, and one of the great experts in hospitality, he was a professor, but he has also a good laugh, and he's very. I think he does the most inspirational speeches in the Netherlands. So he's really good. And we asked him to help us. And he said, yeah, we need like a hospitality program. Then he said, keep it simple, create 1 fan per day. I said, everyone has the time to create 1 fan per day. I know you have like peak times, but there's like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and it has to be easy. He said, if you greet someone and you know his name already, call him by his name, or do you know his drink, your favorite drink, put a drink on table, create 1 fan per day. You have like 800 employees working every day. So we create easily 1 million fan moments a year. So sometimes we make it very complex, and he created something very simple. And he said, if you do it every day, it will be part of your culture, part of your DNA. If you make it complex, it will be very hard to do it.
Mm-hmm. And when it is simple, it becomes naturally more than 1 a day and more than 1 million.
Yes,
in the multi-millions per year becomes the story.
Yeah. And no one can say that I don't have the time to create 1 fan. And if you look at the fan moments were created were very simple. So, for example, we have a fairy tale forest, and Antopie create curved roads. It's really great because you can't see the next fairy tale. But if you are a mother and you have a small child and you want to go to the toilet, you know how hard it is to get to see the toilets. So what employees do nowadays, they say, "Oh, I will walk with you to the toilets." It's like an easy job to do, 2 to 3 minutes. And they have a chat with them, and it's your first time. How do you like it here? And then we create fandom moments. It's not about giving presents. It's of course it's possible, but it's hospitality is about personal attention.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a great way to sort of sum up a lot of what we've talked about today. And I know, Coen, you've made a lot of fans with everything that you've said here today on the podcast. So thank you so much for your time. If people want to get a hold of you or learn more about your consultancy, where would you send them?
I would say use my LinkedIn. That's the most easiest way to do. So visit me or send me an email and or a message on the LinkedIn. And I always be helpful to give a tip or... because we want to make the world a little bit more happier. And let's start with the employees and then with the guests, I always say.
Absolutely. Excellent. Coen, thank you so much. This has been just such a phenomenal conversation. I certainly learned so much. This was very inspiring. So I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and to meet you here, and looking forward to hopefully chatting again sometime in the future. But in the meantime, thank you again for being here, and for everyone out there who is watching and listening, just remember, we are all attraction pros.